Urgent. King Charles just delivered the most devastating royal rebuke in modern history, and what he said about Keir Starmer has left Westminster in absolute chaos. Veterans across Britain are erupting in fury, declaring Starmer not worthy to lead this nation. And what leaked from inside Buckingham Palace in the last 60 minutes could end this government before sunset. If you want to see how this constitutional earthquake destroys Labour's grip on power, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens in the next 72 hours will change Britain forever. Here's what sparked this unprecedented crisis. At 9:47 a.m. this morning, King Charles arrived unannounced at the Royal Hospital Chelsea, home to Britain's most decorated war veterans. His Majesty wasn't there for a ceremonial photo opportunity or a polite handshake tour. He came with a message so pointed, so deliberately crafted, that constitutional experts are calling it the most political speech by a British monarch since 1936. But Keir Starmer wasn't expecting what came next. The King didn't just praise veterans, he declared war on the Prime Minister's entire agenda, and the explosion has only just begun. Inside the Royal Hospital's Great Hall, 200 Chelsea pensioners assembled in their scarlet coats, many wearing medals from conflicts spanning 7 decades. King Charles stood before them, no script visible, no teleprompter, just raw conviction. "You defended this nation when others cowered," His Majesty declared, his voice steady but loaded with unmistakable anger. "You sacrificed years of your lives. Some of you sacrificed limbs. All of you sacrificed comfort and safety so that Britain could remain free. And now, in your twilight years, you are told there is no money for your care, no funding for your housing, no resources for your medical needs." The silence in that hall was deafening. Then Charles delivered the line that has detonated across every news platform in Britain, while those who never served, who never risked anything, who never defended anything, lecture you about fairness and compassion. They spend billions welcoming those who contributed nothing. 12 veterans stood and applauded, then 50. Then all 200 rose to their feet in thunderous defiance. The King had just said what millions of Britons have been screaming for years, and he said it directly to Starmer's face without mentioning his name once. The timing of this royal intervention is no accident. 3 weeks ago, The Times published an investigation revealing that the Department of Health rejected emergency funding requests from 6 veterans' hospitals across England, citing budget constraints. Those same hospitals are now operating at 140% capacity, turning away former servicemen suffering from PTSD, physical injuries, and chronic conditions developed during active duty. Margaret Wilson, a 72-year-old widow of a Falklands veteran from Portsmouth, described watching her husband deteriorate for 9 months while waiting for a specialist appointment that never came. He survived Argentine bullets but couldn't survive the NHS waiting list, she said through tears at a vigil outside Portsmouth Guildhall yesterday evening. Her story went viral with 3.8 million views in 18 hours. The video shows her holding her late husband's military medals, asking one devastating question: what did he die for? That question is now echoing across Britain, and Starmer has no answer. But here's what makes this crisis even worse for the Prime Minister. Documents leaked to GB News this morning show that while veterans' funding was being slashed, Starmer's government quietly approved £85 million for cultural sensitivity training programmes and diversity coordinators in public sector organisations. The leaked memo, marked confidential and dated just 6 weeks ago, shows senior Treasury officials warning that cutting veteran services while expanding progressive initiatives would create significant political risk. One advisor wrote in the margins, "This will look like we're abandoning heroes for ideology. Recommend immediate reversal." That recommendation was ignored. Starmer signed off on the cuts anyway. When confronted about these documents during Prime Minister's questions this afternoon, Starmer's response was catastrophic. He stammered, deflected, and finally claimed he wasn't aware of the specific details of funding decisions made by his own government. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch stood and delivered what political analysts are calling the most brutal takedown in Commons history. The Prime Minister expects us to believe he doesn't know where billions of pounds are going. He's either lying or he's incompetent. Either way, he's not fit to govern. The Conservative benches erupted. Even some Labour MPs sat silent, refusing to defend their leader. Meanwhile, British veterans who spent decades defending this country on battlefields from Northern Ireland to Afghanistan are watching Their benefits slashed while illegal migrants receive hotel accommodations, free healthcare, and legal support worth thousands per person. James Patterson, an 81-year-old Falklands veteran from Manchester, was denied a hip replacement last month because his local NHS trust claimed insufficient funding. "I can't walk 50 metres without collapsing in pain," he told reporters outside his council flat yesterday afternoon. "I served 22 years in the Royal Marines. I fought in the Falklands. I nearly died for this country. And now they tell me there's no money for surgery while they house migrants in 4-star hotels down the road." His voice cracked with rage and heartbreak. While Patterson suffers, government figures show £8 million per day spent on migrant accommodation. We're talking heated rooms, 3 meals daily, security services, and legal representation, all funded by British taxpayers. The contrast is so grotesque, so morally bankrupt, that even traditionally Labour-supporting unions are now questioning Starmer's priorities. The Transport Salaried Staffs Association released a statement this morning calling the treatment of veterans a national disgrace that shames every politician who defends it. And it's not just individual cases anymore. The Royal British Legion released devastating statistics at 1 p.m. today, showing 14,000 veterans currently homeless across the United Kingdom, while government spending on temporary migrant housing has increased 340% in 18 months. Legion spokesperson Commander Sarah Mitchell, herself a veteran of 2 tours in Iraq, called the figures a betrayal of epic proportions. She revealed something even more shocking during her press conference. 73 veterans died while on NHS waiting lists in the last fiscal year alone. 73 men and women who survived combat couldn't survive their own government's neglect. Each name is now being read aloud at vigils across Britain. Each death is becoming a rallying cry against Starmer's leadership. The emotional weight is crushing, and the political damage is terminal. Then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. King Charles broke 70 years of royal protocol with what palace insiders are calling the most politically charged intervention since Edward VIII. At precisely 11:23 a.m., as Charles finished addressing the Chelsea pensioners, he invited 15 of the most senior veterans present to a private 90-minute meeting in the hospital's council chamber. No media, no aides from Downing Street, no government observers, just the King and Britain's heroes discussing what sources describe as the moral collapse of Westminster. His Majesty was visibly emotional, revealed one attendee who spoke on condition of anonymity. He kept saying, "This isn't the Britain you fought for, and somebody has to speak for those who have no voice." Palace insiders reveal that Charles personally requested the meeting 11 days ago, days after reports emerged that dozens of veterans face eviction from social housing while councils convert properties into migrant accommodation centres. The optics are catastrophic for Starmer because every single frame of video footage shows the King standing with veterans while Labour's policies abandon them. What happened during that closed-door meeting is now the subject of intense speculation and leaked whispers from multiple sources. 3 separate attendees have confirmed to different media outlets that King Charles asked detailed questions about government support failures, took handwritten notes, and at one point told the assembled veterans, "Your service will not be forgotten, even if others choose to forget." One 87-year-old D-Day veteran, who requested anonymity due to fear of political backlash, said Charles personally promised to use every means available to ensure their voices reach the highest levels of government. Constitutional scholars are debating what every means available actually implies. Professor David Reynolds of Cambridge University appeared on Sky News arguing that the King may be prepared to invoke rarely used constitutional powers if Starmer refuses to address the crisis. The monarch retains significant reserve powers that haven't been exercised in peacetime since 1834. Reynolds explained, "If Charles believes the government is violating fundamental duties to those who serve the Crown, he has legal grounds to intervene directly." That analysis sent shockwaves through Westminster because it raises the unthinkable possibility. Could the King actually dismiss his own Prime Minister? The domino effect has been swift and devastating. Within 90 minutes of Charles's speech, the pound sterling dropped 1.4% against the dollar as currency traders interpreted the King's words as a vote of no confidence in the government. £27 billion wiped from the FTSE 100 inches afternoon trading. By 2 p.m, hashtags Defend Our Veterans and Charles Speaks for Britain were trending #1. globally on Twitter, with over 4.3 million mentions. Protests erupted across Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool, and Newcastle, with thousands of demonstrators carrying Union Jacks and photos of fallen soldiers. In Westminster itself, Conservative MPs flooded the Commons chamber, demanding an emergency debate on veterans funding. Labour backbenchers sat silent, trapped between defending their leader and facing fury from constituents. A YouGov poll, released at 3:47 p.m, showed 68% of Britons support the King's stance, including 51% of Labour voters. Starmer's approval rating has collapsed to 31%, the lowest recorded for any Prime Minister in their first year since polling began. Even traditionally left-leaning outlets like The Guardian published opinion pieces questioning whether Labour has lost its moral compass entirely. Inside number 10 Downing Street, the atmosphere is being described as complete panic bordering on hysteria. Ministers are conducting shouting matches in corridors, usually reserved for dignified whispers. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner allegedly confronted Starmer directly, demanding he personally apologise to veterans' organisations before the situation spirals beyond control. Defence Secretary John Healey was overheard telling colleagues, "This is the worst crisis I've witnessed in 40 years of politics," during a heated cabinet meeting that stretched past midnight yesterday. WhatsApp groups with names like Veterans First and Labour Rebuild are plotting Starmer's removal. Senior Labour MPs are privately polling potential leadership challengers. The question isn't if they'll move against Starmer, it's when and who leads the coup. Rachel Reeves looked visibly shaken during today's Treasury questions. Sources say she refused eye contact with the Prime Minister and left through a side exit to avoid reporters. Veteran Labour MP Diane Abbott told BBC Newsnight she's never seen a party so divided over fundamental British values. But here's the twist that could finish Starmer's career permanently. Leaked documents obtained by The Telegraph show that Starmer's government rejected 3 separate proposals from veterans' charities, requesting £120 million in additional support funding, while simultaneously approving £340 million in expanded accommodation for asylum seekers. If these documents are real, and if they show what senior civil servants claim they show, then Starmer personally signed off on prioritising migrants over British heroes who sacrificed everything. Think about what that means. The Prime Minister chose politics over patriots. He chose votes from progressive activists over loyalty to the men and women who kept Britain free. The optics of that would be absolutely devastating and unforgivable to millions of voters who still believe in something called duty. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is executing the most masterful political campaign in modern British history. While Starmer scrambles and Labour implodes, Farage stood on the steps of the Imperial War Museum this afternoon, flanked by 30 decorated veterans. No shouting, no theatrics, just quiet authority wrapped in the Union Jack. The King has reminded us what true leadership looks like, Farage declared with perfect composure. He stands with those who served. We stand with those who served. The question for every voter is simple. Who will you trust to defend British values? Within 6 hours, Reform UK's membership surged 520%, according to party officials. Donors poured £2.8 million into party accounts by 5 p.m. today. Polling released at 6:30 p.m. shows seismic shifts. Conservatives holding at 31%, Labour plummeting to 24%, and Reform UK exploding to 27%. For the first time in British political history, Farage isn't just a protest figure disrupting the establishment. He's a legitimate contender to become the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Farage's strategy is working because he understands something Starmer never grasped: British. Voters will forgive many political sins, but never disloyalty to those who wore the uniform. Reform UK has already announced a comprehensive veterans support package promising £500 million in immediate funding, fast-track medical appointments, and guaranteed housing priority. Whether these promises are deliverable is almost irrelevant at this stage. What matters is the contrast. Farage appears strong where Starmer looks weak. Reform appears patriotic where Labour looks ashamed of Britain. The narrative has shifted completely, and Starmer is powerless to stop it. The next 72 hours are absolutely critical for Britain's political survival. Emergency cabinet meetings scheduled through the weekend. Labour MPs demanding Starmer reverse course immediately or face a confidence vote Monday morning. Veterans organisations planning nationwide demonstrations outside every Labour constituency office. International media portraying Britain as a nation in constitutional crisis where even the king has lost faith in his government. The question is no longer whether Starmer can survive this disaster. It's whether the Labour Party itself can survive being exposed as the party that abandoned Britain's heroes for political correctness. Britain is watching a government collapse in real time, not from scandal or corruption, but from something far worse: moral bankruptcy. At its epicenter stands Keir Starmer, who looks increasingly isolated, increasingly desperate, and increasingly finished. So here's the question that matters. Did Starmer just destroy his career with one catastrophic policy choice? Did King Charles just trigger the end of Labour's government with 12 devastating words? Or is this the moment Britain finally wakes up and demands leaders who actually honour the values this nation was built on? What do you think happens next? Does Starmer resign by Monday, or does Labour force him out in a leadership challenge? Could Nigel Farage actually become Prime Minister within 6 months? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because we read every single one and your voice matters in this fight. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in Westminster right now. The mainstream media won't tell you the full truth about how badly Starmer has failed our veterans, but we will. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, because tomorrow we're revealing the leaked WhatsApp messages between Labour MPs plotting Starmer's removal, and what they say about his leadership will blow your mind. This constitutional crisis is far from over. The next chapter could change Britain forever.